This is Bill and Linda Bain coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. It's a special pleasure to welcome all of you to our first Temple of Light service. It's great to see all your shining faces. Yesterday was the spring equinox, and spring has definitely sprung in Atlanta. What a perfect time of the year to initiate our services. I know we can see each other's faces on the screen, but we thought at the beginning of this first service, it would be good to take a few moments to let everyone introduce themselves and tell us where you're from. So we'll do this by time zone, beginning with the Eastern time zone, and then move west. Please make sure your microphone is unmuted before speaking. Also, please mute your microphone whenever you're not speaking during our service so that we don't pick up any background noise. Okay, we'll start the introductions with those in the Eastern time zone. Go right ahead.
Steve and Tola and Carol with me, and we're in Atlanta, and we look forward to our time.
Millie Holiday, also in Atlanta. Also love to see all the beautiful faces, some old and some new.
Terry Kaufman here in Atlanta, and very excited about this opportunity.
And the other half, Robert, and I'm just down the hall in Atlanta.
This is Lucille in Mount Terry, North Carolina. Wonderful to be with everybody.
Welcome, North Carolina.
Welcome, Carol. Just welcome, Carol. She just came in.
Yeah, Carol.
Travis. She's.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what we're doing.
Oh, no, she. Okay, we'll move to the Central time zone.
Carol Travis in Abilene, Texas.
Abilene, Texas. Thank you for holding down the fort in the Central time zone, in the heart of Texas. Okay, we'll move on to the Mountain time zone.
Suzanne Kaur in the beautiful Colorado Rockies. So good to see you all.
Janet in Denver.
It's difficult to hear her.
Okay, weren't able to hear you very well, Mary.
She may want to adjust the.
Sorry, I'll get closer to the mic in my computer. Mary Janik in Denver.
Perfect.
Well, welcome both of you from snowy Colorado. It's good to be together and to know who everyone is, because some of you
West Coast.
I've never met before. Let's go on to the West Coast.
Laura Fisher at Sun Peaks in British Columbia at the top of the mountain.
And David Nann here at the bottom of the mountain, fairly close to Laura. Good morning.
I guess it's my turn. John LeBaron, out on the coast. Denman Island.
Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Gloria Rubin, Desert Hot Springs, California. Hello.
Hello.
And not far west of Gloria, Pamela and John Gray in Lake Elsinore, California.
Welcome, John and Pamela.
Thank you.
So it's good to be together and to know who everyone is. As I was mentioning, some of you I've never met before, but I think I've heard most of your names before, if I haven't met you. Well, we'll be scheduling 90 minutes for each service, but that's only a maximum time period. If we complete our considerations in less time, like an hour or 75 minutes, then our service will conclude and that'll be perfect. Our time is fluid, but we will not go over 90 minutes. Well, 4 of us have been working together to help facilitate the initiation of this new cycle. And this includes David Barnes and Ann Blaney and Linda and myself, in agreement with several others. The 4 of us will say a few words of welcome at the beginning of our time together today. We thought that Temple of Light is an appropriate title to describe these monthly services. And here's one definition for the word temple: any place in which God dwells. Any place in which God dwells. So we come together in the holy place in the spirit of communion. It was 7 years ago that David set up the Great Cosmic Story website, which is a tremendous provision. I see these monthly services as a new cycle that has developed from the work that David started 7 years ago with his website. So at this time, I would like to give David a chance to extend his words of welcome. David?
Thanks, Bill. I remember seeing a photograph of Bill walking with his father about 30 to 35 years ago. And having quite a feeling of love for that young man. And never dreaming, of course, that on this day in March in 2021, that we'd be collaborating together with all of you and sharing this time. But I think it's an indication of the wonders that have been present in our life, each one of us, and the wonders that are yet to come. I was reflecting on a passage this morning from the book of John. The Master Jesus, the master of the Temple of Light, said, "Father, the hour is come. Glorify thy Son, that thy Son may glorify thee." And I was thinking that the word son, as we've come to know it, actually relates to the formation, vibrationally and in physical form, of the Temple of Light. And the hour has come to initiate a simple new cycle that complements much of the wonderful work that is being done, that is coming alive with new energy, new spirit, and new substance in this day. I looked on the internet this morning and I noticed there was a message from Jae Young Lee, and the title of it was, "Let Your Light So Shine." And then I looked and there was a record of some words and music spoken and offered a week ago coordinated by Sanford, and it was titled Tonal Collaboration. And it's a rich feast present there. And I remembered that last Sunday in Seoul, Eugen Pak gave a service on the presence of Melchizedek, priest of the Most High God, and that Melchizedek influence that is present in the time that we're bringing forth our contribution, our substance that goes towards the building and the shining in the temple of light. In this day, we have a lifespan to give ourselves to that formation developing. We do it right when our time is complete. We pass it on to those angels who come into temple service with us and are here to carry it on after we leave. Because this is a large project, this project of the restoration of the consciousness and the formation of the temple of light, which rightly should take on in every human being living on earth who gives himself to that, and also include the whole earth and all of creation as well. And so we are here in the midst of a recreation project and process. And what a privilege to recognize that as Melchizedek came 4,000 years ago and reminded Abraham of his work in initiating the cycle of the restoration and the recreation of the temple of light. And as Melchizedek came again in the form of the Master Jesus, born as a human being, to live the life of a human being and call others to remembrance and awakening, and set in motion a cycle that would absolutely and firmly, completely establish the restoration of the Melchizedek priesthood, the tribes of the earth in oneness, and all creation as part of the temple of light. And Yoronda came to carry forward that and to open up the cycle in this age. And we find right from the beginning that he emphasized the reality of the temple of light. I've got a diagram on my computer that Yoronda drew in the early 30s of the design of the formation of the priesthood and the core body of functioning in the temple of light, in the archangelic body. Just that core design. And right at the bottom, he's got in his uppercase letters, Temple of Light. And all of us were introduced long ago to 7 steps to the Temple of Light, which we have read many times, I'm sure, but find ourselves walking those steps in opening the doors and opening the way that was opened for us by the archangels and the angels who came before us and who have walked with us and opened the way very clearly. So we wanted to have at least a monthly service pattern that acknowledges these core things and acknowledges the work that others are doing. Very glad for it, complements that, but provides something of a fine and a high vibration that we can contribute to the work of regeneration. I'll just read a sentence from Yolanda speaking about Melchizedek, priest of the Most High God, King of Salem, King of Peace. He was speaking to that 1953 class. He said, your function here in this school has for its purpose the basic initiation into the priesthood of the order of Melchizedek. There can be no true manifestation of spiritual power except on the basis of the priesthood of the order of Melchizedek. This is the keynote. This is the key point in relationship to the outworking of the whole divine plan and pattern. And those who would share in the fulfillment of the divine purpose on earth must, to some degree, begin to share the reality of this priesthood. And so we know that long ago we participated in that initiation. And so we moved along the path, and here we are as friends and angels together with a responsibility that is in accord with, let us remake mankind and all creation. Let us as angels do us, as a group, as a collective, not just one person, but we work together from, you might say, the lowest to the highest vibration, and let something come to focus according to what each one of us is called to do in our work and our service together. So this is just a beginning, very simple, and I'd love to have Anne slide in here and say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to those in the eastern part. Just some quick overall comments. As I was listening to David describing how spirit comes into form into this plane, how Melchizedek used a particular heavenly technology to appear to Abram and to Moses, it was a bush, and how spirit takes whatever form is working for that particular time and consciousness. And I was thinking how Yolanda, for instance, said that the technology of the tape recorder was something that was necessary and possible for his delivery of spirit. And then when Martin came along, we were introduced to video and cameras and all that kind of thing. And here we are, we're delivering our expression through the vehicle of Zoom, which I find very intriguing, that we are now stepping into another technology. What's next? Maybe holograms. So we will be participating when we're together in a heavenly technology just right here by being gathered, for instance, physically through Zoom. So that's one level of gathering that takes place. And then when we listen to the pieces that are going to be read by some of our friends, we're going to be involved in another level of technology, which is actively listening. It's not just a passive thing at all, as we will discover. Much is happening in the heaven. And then when we have the opportunity to speak our own words, that initiates a whole other level of technology, which I know transforms one, transforms you as you speak, and transforms those who hear, and transforms further on. So welcome to the 21st century, the current heavenly technology that we are now going to participate in with creativity and interest to see how we will be used by Spirit to say something to each other and to the world, which is pretty phenomenal when you think about it. Particularly our generation, which has witnessed such an array of Spirit manifesting in the earth. And of course, I've only touched on some of them. So that's it from me. And I'd like to turn it over to Linda now.
Thank you, Anne. That was a beautiful journey you took us through there. I never, sort of put that all together, but it really is amazing how things have fallen in place. So in the past, there has been a record of those who have come before us and left us treasure on earth. So I just want to extend my thanks to you, David and Bill, for including me in working together and being part of the process of letting this new cycle begin. It's been a privilege. And now we continue today with all of you who are here present with us. So welcome into this specific setting. I'm just going to go right into introducing what we are going to read today. And the selection has been made by David. He selected 3 excerpts from both the morning and evening services given by Martin Exeter on June 7th, 1987, which David has titled Passion for the King. Be holy, be perfect, be humble. And before I read my part of the excerpt, I'll just give you some instruction as to how we're going to go about this. So the 3 excerpts will be read in order by myself, Millie Holliday, and Pamela Gray, without any comments in between. Pamela will have some comments after reading her excerpt before opening it up for a group conversation. The title again is Passion for the King. Be holy, be perfect, be humble. Be holy, be perfect. This is the natural experience for human beings. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father, which is in heaven, is perfect. Who indeed can make him or herself perfect? No one. Who knows what it would mean to be perfect? Who is it that even wants to be holy? The way of holiness, the way of perfection, is the way of man as he was created to be. Be holy, be perfect. A myriad of excuses rise up as to why this could never happen. All lies. Why would it be so difficult to be oneself? Be holy, be perfect. Love God. Love the Supreme One. Love the King. This is the natural attitude and state of man, male and female. We ourselves here this morning rightly represent this love. Love one another. Curse not. In the book of Revelation, the statement is made, and there shall be no more curse. What is the curse? The word curse in this context is synonymous with the word accuse. Human beings constantly curse each other by accusation. Accusation stems from judgment, from the arrogant assumption on the part of anyone that he or she knows what is good and what is evil. Here is the curse. How arrogant to take the attitude for oneself. I know how others should behave. I am so wise. I am much holier than thou, because I can see what a wrong person you are, and I can list the reasons. No one can justify accusation. In the story of Job, he was instructed to curse God and die. Accuse God, principally by accusing one's fellows. We are aware of the fact that rightly we love God and love one another. So if we accuse one another, we accuse God. That's what it boils down to eventually. Accusation. It's blatant, isn't it, when we begin to assume a heavenly perspective. Be holy, be perfect, be humble. We were not set up to be judges of our fellows. It might be said that there is righteous judgment. This would simply be the view of the way things are seen from a heavenly perspective. No judgment would enter into the matter in the human sense. There would be no accusation and consequently no cursing. With a heavenly perspective, things can be seen the way they are. And because it is a heavenly perspective, there is no judgment, there is no accusation. There is simply observation of the way things are. If the instruction is acknowledged, be holy, be perfect, that is receivable only by oneself. If I have used these words now, they are instruction to me. If you use them, they are instruction to you. Be holy, be perfect, not because you, in the human sense, know what it means to be holy or what it means to be perfect. But the provision has been made for this experience the very moment the accuser is cast down, so that one is no longer identified with the accuser. Love God, love your fellows. The love with which we love God is responsive love. Responsive love occurs as there is resonation within one's own substance with God's love. That has always been present, but there has been very little substance in human beings which resonates with that radiance. It is the resonance with the radiance of love, that is love for God. That resonation enables a sharing in the radiance of God's love, which is then available to love our fellows. Are we not able to handle in radiant love everything that comes to us? Of course. But we have no radiant love available until there is first a resonating with the radiant love of God, the radiant love of the King. When we resonate with that, our resonation is unified with that radiation, and so we are in position to participate in further radiation. But radiation never brings subjection to that which is being offered the opportunity of response. There is only one way to help anyone else, and that is to be aligned with the outpouring radiation of God's love. Only those will be helped in whom there is substance which resonates with that radiance. Others continue in the cursed condition. The actual answer for everything is to participate in that radiation of love. That is the only way anything gets sorted out. Righteous judgment could be defined as judgment without accusation. When there is a clear seeing, because there is no accusation, then one understands what has happened, and one is quite willing to let it happen, because what's happening is what should happen. Constantly what happens is what should happen. Let the accuser be cast down. There are things happening in the earth that have been produced by this curse. The insistence by human beings upon their right to judge, their right to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We share in a willingness to let the accuser be cast down so that we handle our affairs without accusation. No matter what we see or think we see in others, in circumstances, in events that are reported to us around the world, there is no accusation. Until that is the fact, there shall be no more curse. And the evidence of the curse is becoming ever more intense. The more intense it becomes, the more reason people imagine they have to accuse. It is a vicious circle. Someone has to break it. Because we have some understanding in these matters, the responsibility must be ours. So we stop cursing. What engenders conversation between human beings as a rule? Accusation, chatter, gossip, accusation. It is indicated that one will give account for every idle word in the day of judgment. Today is the day of judgment. It always has been so. Let the accuser be cast down. There is no radiance of love as long as accusation remains. It is a loveless world. Resonating with the radiance of the love of the King, we share that radiance, that the substance in human beings everywhere may be offered the opportunity of resonating with that radiance. This is the creative process. Let the accusations be cast down. They mean nothing. They have no validity whatsoever. That there may be a clear space in which the radiance of love pours forth to seek out substance in human beings, the world around, which will resonate with that radiance. Leave it in the hands of that radiance. That's what works. Only as there are those on the face of the earth who have responded and are resonating with the instruction, be holy, be perfect, be humble. Is there the emergent specific provision made understandably available to all human beings who are capable of receiving it? That is all that can be done. Rise up and come home is the command of the radiation of love. Only those who resonate to that command will rise up and come home. Let it be the way of the creative process. Let it be the way of the King. Let it be the way of Almighty God, that there may be present on earth those who love Him and love each other.
Radiant radiation and responsive radiation. Radiant radiation is the radiation of the love of the King. Responsive radiation occurs to the extent that one's own individual substance is made available to resonate with radiant radiation. Then there is unified radiation. Then that unified radiation, the fulfillment of that very exact law occurs. If the substance which is present in each individual, physical substance, mental substance, emotional substance, spiritual substance, is permitted to resonate with the radiation of the love of the King, it will do so because we are willing and our hearts have been turned back again. On the other hand, it is very evident that the substance that is present in human beings the world around has been offered in resignation to what is factually below. The substance of mankind resonates with the world which has been created by mankind, having removed that substance from resonating with the love of the King. If there is resonation with what has been humanly created, the attraction is downward. We know what the end result of that is. This substance is kept from resonating with the radiation of the love of the King because of human insistence to keep it polarized in the passions of human nature. It's interesting to note that much passion is apparent in people who are polarized in what is right, what rightly should be below them. A very obvious way of observing this is what human beings have passionately given to their cultures, to their religions, to their political structures, to their structures of society, whatever they may be. When something arises, how much passion is poured into resonation with these? Resonation occurs both from the standpoint of love and hate and all the colorations in between. But how passionate people become in these various fields. What passionate reaction there was in times past with respect to what our friend Immanuel Velikovsky offered. Passionate reaction from the scientific establishment. Human beings have a capability of passion, and how passionate people are with respect to their various fields of operation, which they love so much. They are passionate about terrorism, very passionate about dying. In a way, this could be said of everybody. The methods are different, but it is this passion, polarized in what is rightly below, which leads everybody down. I have wondered about the seeming lack of passion with respect to the king. While I wouldn't suggest anything out from under control, nevertheless, this is where any passion we have belongs. Love for the king. Love God and live. Curse God and die. How much real passion is there for the king? Where is our passion? Sometimes a great deal of enthusiasm is engendered by reason of a game of some kind, maybe a card game, maybe ice hockey. People have tremendous passion in all kinds of direction, but passion for the king, it's usually pretty pale, anemic. Yet without it, there is only perishing. We have, individually speaking, a capacity for passion. How will we exercise it? With some, it seems it is not exercised at all. Then the capacity atrophies. Something that is not exercised will atrophy. We have passion, I know, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting there. Many people are passionately given to TV. What program am I missing tonight? Of course, these days you can record them and see them later. Trust the king and live. Eschew cursing. Eschew accusation. If you want a grand evil, there it is, one to be eschewed. Not so that we can do good, but so that we may reveal the radiance of the king. We may share with him his radiance. We honor him in this way, and we are glorified by him in this way. This state, which we know a little, seems so far removed from the pleasures of the world about which human beings become so passionate. It seems to most human hearts and minds to relate to a never-never land. But we know better. When there is passion for the king, in fact, this state of radiant outpouring is so intense and all-consuming that finally no one can avoid it. There are those, the world around, who already love the king. The majority of them have no idea that he has a body. Those who are aware of the body and who genuinely love the king love his body. For the king and the body are one. It is impossible to love the king and not love his body. So obviously, accusation, if it occurs within the body, is an indication that those concerned do not love the king, or their love is not genuine. This is not to say that it might not become genuine if there is a willingness to eschew judgment, to eschew the evil of accusation. There is never any justification for it. One cannot by any means justify it. If one attempts to do it, one is just fooling oneself. Trust the king. Trust his spirit, which is revealed through the creative process. Another word for the creative process might be the Christ. There are a lot of people who claim to believe in the Christ, but very few who trust the Christ, who trust the creative process, which is the evidence of the working of the Spirit of the King. Trust the King. Honor the King, because the King is loved, and the King is loved factually when the substance of one's earthly being resonates with the radiation of his love. Most love for God tends to be love for something imaginary, a concept of mind, an idea that has taken root in human consciousness. There are different ideas in this regard, and there are those who have their particular idea to love. If one is loving an idea, one is in fact insisting that, should there really be a God, he must conform to my idea because I love my idea, and unless God conforms to my idea, I cannot love God. But of course he will, because my idea is a good one. It's supported by my particular religion, denomination, or whatever. And there is always seemingly safety in numbers. But that, of course, is never loving God. It is, in fact, denying God, because God, the reality, is not going to conform to any human concept or idea. He is not going to fit into the human view of things.
We realize that the human view must be relinquished if there is to be space for God to reveal himself as he is, not as human beings might like him to be. It seems that a lot of people have a pet God. But like the genie in the bottle, you rub God the right way and he will come out of the bottle and give you a blessing. How nice. But beware if you rub the bottle the wrong way, then a very wrathful character will emerge and give you hell. I'm sure we all delighted that it is quite possible to give space in ourselves for God to reveal himself. That's what human beings usually want, isn't it? But not to us. Well, I want to be sure about this. You reveal yourself to me so that I am sure. I need a vision. A lot of people have had visions on this basis, sometimes visible visions. Jesus came and he said this to me. No, he didn't. It doesn't work that way. When God is given space because we honor the King, loving him above all, then we will find ourselves increasingly capable of giving expression to his spirit. And to that extent, we come to know God. It's the only way anyone can know God. Certainly he isn't a genie in the bottle. He isn't some character hiding behind a cloud somewhere so that no one can find him except by various techniques. God is not found that way. The truth is not found that way. It is only found when there is space in oneself to give expression to the truth and to reveal the character of God. Then you know what it is. But certainly it cannot be revealed through all the clutter of human beliefs, ideas, concepts, even less through their ambitions and determinations and endeavors to achieve. It is rather shattering to human egos, at least, to human beings in general, to come to the realization that all that has been undertaken by human beings over the millennia comes to naught. It has no value in and of itself. We know where the value is, in God, specifically in the love of our King. We begin to have value when we resonate with that. Not the sort of value that those who are trapped in the human state recognize particularly. Certainly, no one hands out rewards for it or medals for it. If you want a medal, you had better go somewhere else. No, the value is in the expression of living. The quality that is revealed in one's own heart and mind and body. The quality of the King. There is the value. Recently in a service, someone mentioned that virtue is its own reward. And back along the way, he didn't think much of that. But if virtue is seen as the revelation of God on earth, what greater reward could there be? Everything else pales to insignificance. Of course, this revelation, while it requires individuals, is not merely an individual matter. It's far greater than that. Finally, we allow this revelation to put in an appearance because we let the curse be finished. Now there was a comment from a woman in the congregation. Martin, my King is embodied. Here am I in the midst of him. More specifically, my King has a focus on earth in you, and you are my passion. There is nothing to do on earth but to resonate with you, to serve my King. That there is visible, clear, and sweet evidence of his presence on earth. Because here we are, and we are in passionate love. Martin continued, This passion which is to be experienced on earth by reason of those of us who are present to experience it is essential to reveal the radiant love of the King. His love can never be revealed in absentia. If the King is absent, his love cannot be revealed. Of course, the King has always been present, but unknown, invisible. He becomes known as there is an emergence into human consciousness of the nature of the passion that allows the King to be present in his body on earth. It isn't some sort of abstract passion or a passion toward some hoped for but invisible character. The passion must be experienced at the level where we are, not in some supposed exalted level somewhere else. Then the King comes on earth, and we discover that our experience is of an absolute nature. It requires absolutely a passionate experience on earth. Oh, well, some may say, I'll be very passionate when I come into the presence of my King. Aren't you in the presence of the King? Surely we all are. But that presence is represented. And unless the passion is at the level of the representation, it won't be at the level of the King. It is something that is actually very practical. There is no necessity for some mystical involvement. We are all here together. We know each other. We can love one another. There can be a passion for what is represented, both from the standpoint of the representation of the King and from the standpoint of the representation of his body. They are one anyway. Being passionately in love with the King, we are also at the same time passionately in love with his body. Now, perhaps we've reached a point where we do not interpret this passion in the old human nature ways. We let it be what it actually is. And we define that at the moment by saying, as the King said, love one another. Love me. Love one another. The love for one another is absolutely dependent upon the love for him. If this has been missing in some respects, we know that our love for him has been less than passionate. But now it begins to come forth. There are angels on earth in human form, present to be responsible for revealing the King. Certainly not for boosting any human egos, but for revealing the King. That and that alone. I suppose I myself may have had a large opportunity, if I wish to take it, to boost my ego, the circumstances of my birth, etc. Make this quite available to me. But I belong to my King. And because I belong to my King, you belong to me. And you belong to each other. One body, one spirit, one King. We all awaken in our own experience to what this means. We may say it's quite unprecedented. Of course, if there had been a precedent, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. But the precedent being established is being established not by human efforts, certainly not by any human ambition, but by the radiant love of the King. As our master said long ago with respect to himself, if ye love me, keep my commandments. And the central commandment is love one another. Of course, this can't be done on command. It is done because of passion, the angelic passion, which is present in each individual, emerges through heart and mind into experience. It only does that as the substance of heart and mind and body are freed up from their structures to resonate with the love of the King. That is union. This is union, speaking the word together with the passion of our hearts. And that dispels the curse on earth, the curse in anyone that is clouded over by ideas and concepts of the King. And it comes because of passion, and we're drawn together here, all of us that see one another because of that passion, because of that love. I didn't know who would be here. I knew, of course, because the invitation came out from the four, and I knew who the other readers were. And of course, John is here. But I didn't know anyone else that would be here. And it didn't matter because that invitation said very specifically, at first it would be a smaller group, but the premise of the invitation that has gone out to us and will go out probably eventually to others has to do with the resonance with that spirit, the spirit of the King. And it's wide open to those who share the resonance of spirit. And that is a perfect word, resonance, because very literally it means those who vibrate or radiate on the same frequency as the source. And that's what has drawn us together, the same frequency. John and I were on a Zoom call with a couple the other day. We hadn't seen them in person for over 10 years probably. And so of course there was this time of catching up and so on. But very quickly it came to the same resonance, the same vibratory frequency of how is that articulated now on earth in what you do, what we do. And throughout the conversation, there was, the woman spoke and spoke passionately of Martin and his body and what drew us all together because of that radiance we were drawn to. And there was deep passion and emotion and tears. And it is that passion that has, no matter what the obstacle has been over the years, has been present and compelled us to seek those who we resonate with. Angels know angels. And dispel the curse. And the opposite of curse is blessing. We're here because we have been blessed. And these are great days to pour out that blessing very practically in our living through that revelation. I would open it up to our shared conversation.
Pamela and others, I was thinking that if we were all in one physical location, we might be standing in a circle and holding hands. I feel like we are holding hands. I'm thinking of the word virtue. Pamela, you mentioned the vibratory element of resonance. And the word virtue has long bothered me. It seemed kind of a mamby-pamby word for blaze forth pure virtue. I wasn't sure what that meant. Jesus said that he felt the virtue go out of him when the woman touched the hem of his garment. Couldn't wrap my head around that. So at one point I started delving into where the word virtue came from, and I traced it back to an ancient Aramaic dialect. And the word in the Aramaic was dahil. And that translates as vibrational tone or healing. Virtue is resonance. Resonance brings us union, so that we are holding hands no matter where we are on the planet. And the world is blessed thereby, as are we. I too was looking forward to seeing who was going to show old and new friends, members of the remnant. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all who have brought such a resonant message this morning. I'm shaking inside with passion. I've met many people that were together in Martin's time, and I note there is either huge resistance to the collective again, or a deep, deep longing for that collective. In the collective is the power. In the collective is the means for restoration. And that collective must be occupied by people that are resonant with our King, are unabashed about proclaiming so. The glorious part is there are a few places where you can proclaim so these days. But here we are, and we can. We can, and we do. And that brings a strength that nothing else does. I am entertaining a friend this year who's getting married soon, and she's busy telling me about all the things that she and her future husband have in common. It's almost worth weeping over, because what isn't in common is what we speak of in these terms. In this particular couple, they may discover it along the way, especially if they keep in touch with me. But we have that resonance. We know it deep in our trembling flesh. I'm deeply grateful for this gathering. Thank you.
Laura, you opened, Robert. Laura, you open up a threshold that's individually we feel like we've been alone, but now like this grouping is bringing our eyes to the fact that we're not alone in our love for the King. So it's great to open the door with us today in that respect.
I was thinking of the Master's words when he said, "Ye shall not see me henceforth until he can say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." And as I look at all your faces, my heart is saying, blessed are ye who come in the name of the Lord. And, you know, as Linda was reading, I made a little comment and said, this is our job description. This whole paper is our job description. You know, we could boil it down to these words: resonating with the radiance of the love of the King. We share that radiance, that the substance in human beings everywhere may be offered the opportunity of resonating with that radiance. You know, like I am so grateful to still be alive in these days, to allow the treasure, as Linda was saying, that has been offered to us, to have potent expression and release at this time, so that this sad waiting world can be blessed with the love of the King, because we are on hand to love one another because we love him. And, you know, so I'm like Laura, I'm trembling inside with thankfulness for the fact that The love we have for those who brought this material to us has not fallen on deaf ears, but that we are on hand to move forward and allow the order of the priests of Melchizedek to be available in service to our kings, in service to his body on earth.
It's been noted a lot of times recently how appreciative we are for this technology, Zoom, so that all our little rectangles can be assembled in one place at one time. Suzanne brought a bit of new meaning to virtual. We say this is a virtual gathering, which doesn't mean artificial. It means gathering in virtue to us, and that it is virtue that gathers us. It's the virtue of our King that gathers us, and his name resounds through virtue. And we are virtuous as we reside in his name and share in his radiance. So many beautiful essences streaming into consciousness and into the world in precious times like this.
It's obvious that our hearts leap for joy in being able to be with one another and to share the love that we have for the King. I was thinking that it's so easy to love the King when you know his spirit. How could you not? And if you know his spirit, it's so easy to love his body. How could you not? So magnificent. So many essences, as you said, John, and so much opportunity to continue the work that we've all passionately signed up for and have continued in our own ways all these years, even through many cycles and many, for me anyway, many changes. I've lived many, many places in all of these years since I first touched this ministry in Phoenix with you, John and Pam. I was thinking earlier in the service, as Linda was reading about be holy, be perfect, be humble, and then about the accuser. And what came from me was, this is such a glorious time of being in touch with those essences, with one another. And yet I know, to be honest in myself, I have more work to do to allow the fullness of something to continue to come forth. And it's wonderful work. It's not a burden. It's something that my heart leaps to do, and my heart leaps at being aware of you and knowing that we're doing it together. Such a huge blessing. Thank you all.
Yeah, we were talking this morning about a service that described the need for ongoing and continuous study. And, you know, even way back when I lived in a community, you know, one of the units, there was always this question, you know, am I here primarily to study, or am I here primarily to, well, in my case, it was build things. I had a passion for that. But I'm finding now that it's still happening. There are tweaks, there are little adjustments that can be made continuously. Bill put online this month, you know, the necessity of correction. And that's all absolutely necessary as we strive toward that beautiful new meaning of virtue. I'd never heard that. But the fact of the matter is, we do still act. There's a necessity of acting as well, particularly as we learned today that there, to the extent of our passion, there is something being released. And what I noticed this week, I've been called in to take care of what could have been, well, I won't use the, the bad words, but a real mess. I'm an architect, and I got there and I just looked at these faces, these earnest faces of the men who were there. And I immediately looked for the one who was seen as the leader of their group. And I asked him, what would he do? And I had no idea where that came from, but it was absolutely the right thing to ask. He told me. I worked with that. I asked another person. And together we created something. Action, I think, is so necessary today because we aren't all part of this one body, this remnant. But there are so many others out there who are so hungry to respond to something that they feel the supreme love of God coming through. That's the only way I can put it. And in a sense, we are all called, and I can see it's a responsibility emerging that some of us have to be providing an answer in our living every moment. And we have to a considerable extent. And I have a passion to reach for being able to do that as fully and as completely as I possibly can from here forward. And it's been a real pleasure to be with all of you today. Thank you.
Well, I have a couple thoughts that kind of build on what several people have said. So long ago, one of the things that Martin said that meant a lot to me, and I've thought about over the years, and I do my best to live from it, is what if you were the only person left on earth who knew what you knew? What would you do? So my sense is that we're all here together because each of us have been doing our living, being in that attitude, in that spirit, accepting that responsibility and privilege to do that. And to me, when individuals do that, that produces the power of the group. And I am loving being here today and part of it. And to me, it's a natural outworking of the creative process. You know, I've known David and Ann for years as good friends. We've been through some specific experiences together, Sunrise Ranch related. So it's all been growing in the womb, so to speak. And now here we are. And for me, to be a part of this group in form brings a sense of comfort, actually, to be part of the body in form. And I know it's not just an imagination. It's not really imagination. I know that there's lots of people doing this, but being in form together makes the connection real. And I do have one last thing to say so others can talk. Why is it so wrong that we're still learning and growing? You know, I grew up with a very perfectionist father. So I like to say sometimes in that sense, I'm a recovering perfectionist in my outer packaging. And a friend of mine at Sunrise Ranch really helped me through that. I mean, That's what we're here for. And I mean, Yolanda said it too. You think in heaven things are going to be perfect and smooth? No, there's always adjustments and all that. So let's just let go of that stuff that we're supposed to, I don't know what. It's the spirit we bring to the circumstances in the moment. And I love what you were saying, Robert, about walking into the room and you've got a mess there. I can kind of imagine a little bit what that was like. And the spirit who you are directed you. I've had experiences like that. Haven't we all had experiences like that when we're just so open and ask, be open to the guidance and amazing things come out. So I speak for that practical expression of spirit. So many ways that our lives, our words, our blessings, and we don't even know. That was another thing I remember Martin said. You cannot observe yourself. You just can't. So I gave it up. And we keep learning, we keep growing, we keep radiating, and we keep being together. And everything is in the Lord's hands. Just relax into that. I mean, that's what I tell myself. Relax into that, trust that, and be happy.
Following up on that about relaxing and trusting, I really was intrigued to revisit the phrase, let the accuser be cast down. I heard it in a new way. I heard it as the accuser actually builds walls that need to be cast down, removed, so that the radiation can move through both ways, from the Lord and from our radiant center. And so being relaxed really describes the state that happens when the accuser is cast down. I also agree with what you said, Mary, about how we each come as individuals to gather. And the fact that we have, in our experience, cast down the accuser to whatever degree we have, relax to whatever degree we have, so that the radiation, which, let's face it, we're outnumbered by God. His radiation is so immense that it's really a pretty silly battle, Don Quixote trying to stop that, because it's so total, so full. So as individuals, we touch that, and there is something about coming together in a place, like you were describing, in a contained experience where the union between one another, but the union that we feel with the Lord is intensified. And here's the practical part that relates to what you and Robert were just saying. Now, when we go out into our worlds, we will find that backing. Like there is something that allows an intensification of our own expression that becomes more effective. I have found that, and it's wonderful. It is comforting. The truth is the comforter. And we do say exactly the right thing. We do get that idea to say whatever. And that's because there is an alignment that has been intensified in our minds, in our mental facilities, in our emotions, et cetera, et cetera. So we become more effective conveyors of radiation in our worlds. But I also just want to bring it back to the wonderful experience of being together in a temple that we've used, and to be open, receptive to the incredible radiation that is coming through from the Lord all the time. And to be part of that remnant. I have all sorts of thoughts about the remnant and the Lord's robes and how it's a manifestation of his presence. And we are aspects of the Lord's robe in the world. And we move around as the Lord did. So that's where I would take comments so far.
Well, it's been great to hear all of your comments today. In fact, you've all represented to me the radiance of the King. You've represented it to me today, and I've heard it in the expression of each one. I was thinking how people do love, and they love to resonate with the radiance of the King, and their hearts quickly open when the radiance of the King is made evident. I wanted to share just a simple experience I've had recently. I enjoy walking in a nearby neighborhood that has a lot of mature trees and landscaping, and it's a beautiful environment to walk in. And when I first started walking in this neighborhood, I made it a point to wave to each car that drove by me as I was going down the street. And at first, there didn't seem to be much reciprocation, but I kept doing this. Every day when I walked in this neighborhood, I waved at every single person that drove by me in their car. And I don't know one of them. I don't know their names. But I found after a couple of weeks, everyone in this neighborhood was waving at me as I walked down these streets. And then it became even more vigorous, as if they actually knew me. And I thought, it's only a simple example, but I thought, you know, I really do know these people because I've extended myself by waving at them. They've extended themselves back. They're resonating with what I'm giving to them. And so I do find there's no lack of resonation with the radiance of the King. It's simply a matter of letting it be present. And it often comes down to such simple moments, doesn't it? We're not standing in front of a throng of people and trying to, you know, exhort them to resonate with the radiance of the King. It's in such simple circumstances where we engage with people, where we're aware of extending the radiance of the King, whatever simple action that may be. So it's been lovely to spend this time with all of you. I thank you for all of your participation. I thank the three women who have shared the beautiful words of Martin with us today. And this is the beginning of our collective radiation in this specific way, something that is available to us each month. I would just mention that our next service will be held on Sunday, April 18th at the same time, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and the times in between. And David will email us a Zoom link 1 week before the service. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Great to be with you.
Bye-bye.